Dragon Ball is the first world, Superman is the second world, Dou Po is the third world, Marvel is the fourth world, and many subsequent worlds have been slowly added. Chapter 1. Vegeta Star. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Father, Grandpa has passed away, hasn't he? Vegeta approached a nutrition dish and said to her father, King Vegeta. At this moment, there was no trace of sadness on his face after the passing of his loved ones. That old man, after taking a glance at Merleau, closed his eyes with peace of mind. Do you know that in the last moment of his life, he actually wanted Merleau to become the crown prince of the planet Vegeta? He was simply delusional, said King Vegeta as he stared at Merleau, who was absorbing energy from the nutrient solution in the petri dish. At this moment, like Vegeta, he showed no concern for the passing of his loved ones. The crown prince of Vegeta can only be me. Vegeta looked at Merleau in the petri dish, with a hint of wanting to kill him on her face. Don't get excited, Vegeta. He won't be a stumbling block for you anymore. I have a detailed plan for his destination. The king of Vegeta comforted Vegeta a little and said so. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed in a flash. Under the careful arrangement of King Vegeta, Merleau, as a prince, was arranged to join a subordinate team on the planet Vegeta. Here, he also met a passionate young man named Vegeta. Unexpectedly, I came to the world of Dragon Ball. Merleau, a 3-year-old boy, had just finished a day of training and was now leaning against a big tree. Merleau is a traveler who comes from a world called Earth. In his past life, his name was Robert. In his past life, he was carefree. When he was 23 years old, he rushed onto the road to save a kitten due to a momentary passion. As a result, he was sent into heaven by a passing truck. When his consciousness regained, he had already been reborn into the belly of a female scion named Huaye. Merleau's father was the previous king of the planet Vegeta. Old Vegeta was seriously injured and passed the throne to the current Vegeta king ahead of time. Out of respect for his father, King Vegeta casually found a female scion named Huaye on the planet to take care of the old king's daily life. As a result, old Beiwang, who had already half-stepped into the yellow soil, unexpectedly had a seemingly poignant love affair with Huaye. Then Huaye passed away less than a day after giving birth to Merleau, and it's hard to say if her death had anything to do with King Vegeta. After taking a look at Merleau, old king also passed away with a smile on his face. After a lifetime of rebirth, Merleau once again became a person without a father or mother, while his brother and nephew clearly did not appreciate him anymore. However, it doesn't matter anymore. Being able to transform from a previous suspension wire, anti-harmony, to the current scion, Merleau feels very satisfied. The only bad possibility is that, according to the original design, this star of Vegeta will soon be destroyed by Frieza. Scion people are born warriors, and they will have a certain level of combat power from birth. Merleau's initial combat power index was 100 points, and after 3 years of rigorous training, his current combat power index has reached around 1200 points. However, in order to avoid attracting the attention of his brother and nephew, he deliberately lowers his own strength on a daily basis. The combat power index he usually displays to everyone is only 800 points. Don't underestimate the power index of over 1000. It should be noted that in the world of Dragon Ball, the peak state of the Turtle Immortal only has 200 points. With such a power index, the opponent can use a powerful turtle sect Qigong to push the moon out of its near-lunar orbit. The first generation of the Big Demon King, with a power index of 500 points, can stir the earth into darkness. Your Highness Merleau, Your Majesty the King has instructed you to go to the palace immediately. On this day, while Merleau and others were celebrating Vegeta, their newborn son, a guard from the planet Vegeta appeared in front of everyone. My good brother is finally going to take action on me, isn't he? Merleau muttered in his heart before saying goodbye to Vegeta and others one by one. Because he knew that once he went, he might never see these friends who spend time together again. Merleau followed the guards to the palace of the planet Vegeta. The bearded Vegeta king sat upright on the throne in the main hall, while the cold-looking Vegeta was no longer in the hall. Your Majesty, do you want me to check on the current situation of Broly? After hearing the purpose of the other party calling him to come from King Vegeta's mouth, Merleau was momentarily stunned. Why, don't you want to? King Vegeta looked down at Merleau and asked with such questioning. Your Majesty, I am willing. Merleau only thought to himself for a moment before making a decision to go to the planet where Broly is located. Although he knew that going here would be a near death, there was still a glimmer of hope. However, if Merleau dared to disobey King Vegeta's orders in person, he was afraid that he would not even be able to leave this hall today. Very good, you go down and prepare for it. Let's set off tomorrow. Seeing that Merleau had taken this order with no return, a long-lost smile appeared on King Vegeta's face. Although the two were brothers, Merleau never dared to call the King of Vegeta as brother or King brother. In front of each other, he could only call each other Your Majesty like any other scion except for Vegeta. Broly is a genius who had a combat power index of up to 20,000 at birth. King Vegeta, fearing that Broly would threaten her throne someday in the future, had a murderous heart towards Broly, who was still in his infancy. Fortunately, Broly's father Paragus was also an upper-class member of the planet Vegeta. Under his father's protection, Broly settled on a remote planet far from Vegeta. Chapter 2. Merleau Home. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Since arriving on this barren planet, for over half a month, Merleau has either been beaten or on his way to being beaten. In fact, as soon as he arrived, he expressed goodwill to Broly, but unfortunately the other party did not listen to his words. Paragus was also very satisfied with the human sandbag he had brought to his door, because he had transferred his hatred towards King Vegeta to Merleau. Faced with various difficulties from the Broly father and son, Merleau initially wanted to resist, but soon he enjoyed it because it was a shortcut for him to quickly become stronger. In the repeated blows of Broly, Merleau's combat power index was gradually increasing. After his own combat power index exceeded 2,000 points, Paragus also joined the ranks of those who surrounded him. Day after day passed like this, until one day, the envoy of the planet Vegeta arrived here. The King Vegeta had already learned that Merleau had not acted according to his instructions, and he had sent people to arrest the other party and bring them back for trial. At this moment, the father and son of Broly finally realized that Merleau and King Vegeta were not on the same side. But the two of them had no sympathy at all, and instead allowed the envoy to take away Merleau, who had been seriously injured for the nth time. After all, for the father and son, watching the Vegeta King brothers kill each other was also a great blessing in their lives. What else do you have to say? King Vegeta questioned Merleau, who was kneeling on the ground and being held up by two Saiyans. My brother, this is the end of the matter, I have nothing to say. This was the first time Merleau spoke, calling King Vegeta brother, probably the only time. Very good, sinner Merleau, disobeyed the king's order, take him down. Let's go. King Vegeta announced Merleau's fate as if dealing with a piece of garbage. When Merleau was taken to the execution ground, there was no sadness on his face. On the contrary, there was a slight smile on Merleau's face, as he had already caught a glimpse of the spaceship of Frieza and others on his way back to the planet Vegeta. He knew that the turning point of Vegeta's fate was about to come. When Merleau arrived at the center of the execution ground, ready to be executed, a red light descended from the sky, and every person on the planet Vegeta was attracted by this light. Merleau looked at the light and closed his eyes. Soon, a sharp pain spread throughout his body, and his consciousness quickly dissipated when Merleau opened his eyes. He found himself in a strange room. He struggled to sit up and found that his body was still the body of a scion child, but at this moment, he was wrapped in many bandages all over his body. Child, you finally woke up. As Merleau was thinking about where he was, a friendly-looking grandfather came into the room. Are you? When Merleau realized that the other person was actually speaking Chinese, he tentatively asked in a slightly unfamiliar Chinese. My name is Luo, I used to be a knight under the command of King Hoffman. Now that I'm old, I can only. Luo chatted leisurely in front of Bello. Through a few key words in Mrs. Luo's words, Bello can confirm that she is no longer in the Dragon Ball world. If what he expected was right, now he is in the supernatural universe, and the planet under his feet is the one called Merleau home that was destroyed in the battle between male and female angels. After Bello's injury was completely healed, he stayed at Luo's house. This former royal knight once had a happy family, with a wife and son, but due to the constant expansion of angelic civilization, his wife and children became victims of war and competition. But he did not feel sad about it, instead he felt happy and proud for the outcome of his wife and children. In the blink of an eye, 12 years passed by in a hurry, and the elderly Luo was about to die. At this time, the angelic civilization had not yet reached the technological level of tens of thousands of years later. The current angelic civilization, apart from the high-ranking officials, has a lifespan of only a few hundred years for most ordinary people. After burying Luo, Bello, who was already 16 years old, carried a backpack and embarked on the road to the royal capital. Since he had arrived at the Merleau homeland thousands of years before the plot began, it would be a pity not to meet the legendary Princess Nusa on this journey of time. When he was in Dragon Ball world, Bello had already learned the technique of dancing in the air. Therefore, when he went to the capital, he always flew while walking. Unfortunately, he had not yet mastered the skill of aeration, so his current flight speed is extremely limited. Bello walked and flew, and it took him over 5 months to reach the edge of the capital. He stood on a mountain peak, gazing at the bustling capital in the distance, and a smile couldn't help but appear at the corner of his mouth. The architecture of the royal capital of Merleau's home adopts a style similar to the ancient European style. After entering the royal capital, Bello was attracted by the bustling scene in front of him, and at the same time, his taste buds were also attracted by the various delicacies on the street. Delicious. Bello bought a piece of grilled meat on the street, and at this moment, he was like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world before, enjoying it with the guidance of the people around him. Bello wandered around the royal capital for an afternoon, and in the evening, he found a hotel in the city to stay overnight. When he calmed down, he realized that he had almost run out of money left on him. What should we do? Bello muttered to himself, knowing clearly that in such an environment, without money, it would be difficult to move forward. Never mind, when the boat reaches the bridge, it will naturally straighten out. Let's take a nap first and think of a solution tomorrow. After much thought, Bello lay down on the hotel bed. Without any accidents, in just 2 days, Bello was already penniless. He had intended to work in some shops to earn money, but was informed by all the shop owners that people outside of the angel tribe were not recruited to work here. After multiple inquiries, Bello learned that there was only one place in the royal capital that would recruit people outside of the angel clan, and that was the mercenary organization formed by His Highness Liangbing. Bello, who was worried about how to get close to Caesar, was so excited that he couldn't sleep all night after learning the good news. He was penniless and spent the night under the eaves of a shop. The next morning, he set off in the direction of the mercenary organization. Chapter 3. Emerging from the spotlight. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. The mercenary organization formed by Liangbing only has a fixed number of 10,000 people. The condition for joining is to defeat the person with the lowest strength, and then you can join this organization. After you enter, you can continue to challenge yourself, otherwise you will have to face challenges from others who want to join the mercenary organization. With excitement, Bello went to the personnel department of the mercenary organization and received a number plate with the number 623 written on it. And this means there are 622 challengers ahead of oneself. In addition, the person at the end of the mercenary organization can accept up to 10 challenges per day, as well as one opportunity to challenge upwards. And this also means that if Bello wants to join this mercenary organization, he will have to wait for at least 2 months. It is reported that the warrior has already defeated more than 20 challengers. Fortunately, in the mercenary organization, there are a large number of miscellaneous jobs available, allowing those who have already obtained number cards to engage in some basic work here, in order to earn some meager living expenses. After some consideration, Merleau chose to go directly to the quarry to carry out the mining work of the ore. The material to be collected in the quarry is not stone, but a crystal stone with a purple glow. It is said that this type of crystal stone is used to provide flight energy for ships of angelic civilization. However, unprocessed crystal stones are completely unstable, and a slight carelessness during collection can cause a moderate explosion. Therefore, apart from those criminals who are forced to bring mining because of their crimes, people from innocent backgrounds rarely choose to work here. But precisely because of this, people from pure backgrounds who come to work in quarries must enjoy much better treatment than those who commit crimes. Although he was already very careful, during the process of collecting crystal stones, the crystal stones still exploded. Beside the crystal stones, Merleau was directly blown out more than 10 meters away, and when he landed, he fainted directly. When Merleau opened his eyes, he found himself sleeping on a makeshift bed next to the quarry. At this moment, there was still a figure of Qianli standing beside him, and the other person's appearance should be the cool ice of his youth. Oh! You woke up so quickly, your physical strength is quite good. Liang Bing sensed that the person behind her had already woken up. She turned to look at Merleau, who was half sitting on the bed, and said so. You, are you? Although it was confirmed that the person in front of her was cold ice, at this moment, Merleau could only pretend to be herself and didn't know who the other person was. Merleau, this is the second prince of our Merleau homeland, Princess Liang Bing. Before Liang Bing could respond, the person in charge of the quarry gave her an answer first. It's a big deal. Liang Bing first glanced at the person in charge of the quarry, and only then did she turn her gaze back to Merleau after the other person tactfully stepped aside. I know you are also here to participate in the mercenary challenge, but I feel that your physical strength is much better than many people under my command. Therefore, I will make an exception to give you a chance. Tomorrow, you will fight against the mercenary ranked 9,999th in my mercenary organization. As long as you win him, you can join my team. Liang Bing stated his purpose without hesitation. It is obvious that as the only person whose body was almost not significantly damaged during the explosion a few days ago, Merleau's physical fitness has already entered the eyes of the cold ice. However, since you say my body is much better than many people under your command, but you want me to challenge the second to last person in the mercenary organization, are you praising me or belittling me? Thinking of this, Merleau instantly felt that this cold and icy mind was probably already black from the beginning. Thank you Princess Liang Bing for giving me this opportunity. In order to meet her goddess Kaisha as soon as possible, Merleau could only accept Liang Bing's proposal with a smile on her face. However, Liang Bing's mind was not too dark. After Merleau accepted her proposal, she still ordered someone to take him down and serve him well, and even arranged for him to rest in a decent room for the whole night. The competition between Merleau and the warrior named Tito was scheduled by Liang Bing on the morning of the next day. Due to the ongoing showdown, the challenge of the last warrior was temporarily suspended. P.S. Let's borrow the names of Attai and Otto first. Come on. Tito, bring down this unknown little boy. Most of the people in the stands were cheering for Tito, and only a few scattered workers from the quarry could cheer for Merleau. Before stepping onto the arena, Merleau had already made a decision in his heart that the skills he had learned in the Dragon Ball world could never be displayed here. Today, he can only use the swordsmanship, physical skills, and strong physique he has learned from Luo to face the challenge. After all, in the future timeline, Kaisha will face the biggest crisis in history, so Merleau's cards must be kept until then before they can be taken to hard steel Huaye. After the competition began, there was a tug-of-war between Merleau holding a sword and Tito holding a pair of swords, with both sides basically on the same level of strength. After dozens of rounds of defeating each other, both of them coincidentally chose to take a break from their attacks. At the same time, while both of them were panting, they worked hard to find and reflect on each other's weaknesses. Dick, do you think this bellows move is a bit familiar to you? At this moment, Liang Bing, who was watching from the stands, asked the person on his left. Returning to His Royal Highness Liang Bing, his swordsmanship should have come from His Majesty's former palace guards, Your Excellency Luo. As one of the chief palace guards, Dick immediately recognized the origin of Bellow's moves. Oh. Is it the old guy from Luo? Interestingly, Tito's swordsmanship comes from another old friend, Vic. Back then, he and Luo were a pair of old enemies who were mutually exclusive. Unexpectedly, today their descendants are competing together again. The fate between these two people is really wonderful, said Cold Ice Noodle with some interest. Yeah. I don't know who is the better disciple of the two of them, Dick said as he took over the conversation. Quickly, Tito discovered Bellow's swordsmanship, which was very similar to what his teacher Vic had told him about an old opponent's swordsmanship. At this point, he began to fight against Bellow while trying to recall his teacher. It seemed that he had once told himself that this swordsmanship had a very fatal weakness. Chapter 4. Honesty and Honesty. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Tito's thinking while fighting quickly alerted Bellow. As a warrior and fighting race scion, he was very sensitive to the possibility that the opponent had already found some weaknesses in his swordsmanship. Seeing this scene, in order to prevent the opponent from seizing the opportunity, Bellow could only decide to take the initiative. He infused some of the energy learned from the Dragon Ball world into the sword, and then in the following confrontation, he found a gap in Tito's defense and launched a full-force attack on the opponent. But with a loud bang, both Bellow and Tito were knocked away by the other side. But what Bellow didn't expect was that Tito's neutral was deliberately revealed by him, because just now, he had already remembered what the fatal weakness of Luo's swordsmanship was. Fortunately, the defense of Barrow's scion body was amazing, otherwise with Tito's strike, today's competition would have ended prematurely. However, the inflated sword body also caused significant injuries to the opponent. At this moment, Bellow held the sword with one hand and knelt on the ground to catch his breath, while Tito was panting with both legs and knives. Your Highness Liang Bing, if nothing unexpected happens, the outcome of this competition has already been decided, said Dick from the stands, tilting his head towards Liang Bing on the right. That's not necessarily true, Dick. Have you forgotten that Tito still has one biggest trump card to play? Liang Bing threw a hopeful glance at Tito on the arena. Your Highness Liang Bing, you mean? But I don't think Tito will use that bottom card in this competition. Dick hesitated for a moment before saying to Liang Bing. Okay, let's make a bet. If Tito uses that trump card next, you'll go steal one of my sister's personal belongings and give it to me. Liang Bingyan suggested with a hint of teasing as he looked at Dick. Don't joke, Your Highness Liang Bing. If you want some personal item from Your Highness Kaisha, Your Highness Kaisha will definitely give it to you without hesitation. Why take the risk to steal it for you? Dick stood up and bowed to Liang Bing. I knew you wouldn't dare to bet with me. What are you doing with so many grandiose excuses? Liang Bing suddenly lost interest in Dick. As expected by Liang Bing, in the upcoming competition, Tito indeed used that trump card, which is similar to the Fury boost in a certain anime. In this state, Tito is completely an emotionless killing machine, and this state also causes great harm to himself. Whenever he is released from this state, he usually lies in bed and takes a continuous rest for a month before gradually recovering. In a state of anger, Tito quickly abandoned his double knives and directly attacked Bellow with his own hands and feet. This punches to the flesh attack method gradually regained the feeling of being surrounded by the brawly father and son back then. Seeing this scene, Bellow didn't care to expose his cards anymore. He threw away his sword and rushed forward to have a tough competition with Tito one after another. Merleau and Tito just punched and kicked each other like this, and the fighting between them made many people in the stands excited. Until Tito's angry state was relieved and he collapsed on the arena, Merleau also lay on the arena with his hands propped up, covered in bruises. I won. Merleau smiled and fainted as he looked at Tito, who had lost consciousness. That's right, because Tito fainted to the ground first, Merleau naturally won this competition. After the competition ended, Merleau naturally became the 9,999th warrior in the mercenary organization under Liang Bing's command, while Tito naturally became the last warrior. And the remaining hundreds of mercenary challengers naturally became Tito, and the warrior who was once ranked in the top 10,000 was unfortunately eliminated from the cold mercenary organization. Due to the special physical condition of the scion, Merleau only woke up on the second day after the game, and by now he had his own independent room. Although he has joined the mercenary organization, Merleau is only the second to last one. Therefore, for a long period of time afterwards, not to mention seeing Caesar, he had not even met Liang Bing a few times, and even if he did, he could not say a complete sentence to the other party. Unconsciously, Merleau has been joining this mercenary organization for over a year, and after several consecutive challenges, his current ranking has risen by more than 10 levels. Therefore, he became one of the few people who had the fastest promotion speed since joining the mercenary organization. Therefore, one day, Merleau finally got a chance to meet Liang Bing alone. Your Highness Liang Bing, Merleau has arrived. With a shout from the envoy, Merleau arrived at a private mansion located outside the royal palace in Liang Bing. Your Highness Liang Bing, you're looking for me. Merleau approached Liang Bing and bowed to him. Merleau, you are the 12th fastest promoted mercenary under my command, do you know? The 11 people before you are now my trusted generals, but if you want to become my trusted generals, strength is important, but loyalty is equally important. Do you understand? Liang Bingyu said to Merleau with a double tone. I understand, to be honest, the main reason why I came to join you is to see His Highness Kaisha. Faced with the intelligent and clever Prince Liang Bing, after a period of careful consideration, Merleau finally chose to speak the truth. In order to meet my sister, do you know that my sister's pursuers can already circle the planet of Merleau's home completely? Besides, my sister has already made an engagement with Huaye from the Angel Holy King's family. Liang Bing said calmly, clearly not resisting Merleau's words. P.S. Since Kaisha has already been engaged to Huaye, why are there still so many suitors? Are those people a group of heroic heroes who are not afraid of death? I just want to silently stand by His Highness Kaisha's side in the future. I never thought about what would happen to her, Merleau said to Liang Bing half-truthfully. You're quite honest. Alright, I'll take note of your wish for now. In 6 months, I'll have a military showdown with my sister. You can come and observe, which satisfies your wish to see my sister. Liang Bing blinked lightly at Merleau. P.S. Liang Bing, the future demon queen, has captured countless demons willing to willingly sacrifice their lives by blinking her eyes in this way. Thank you very much for your Highness Liang Bing's love. Merleau bowed sincerely to Liang Bing. When Merleau left from Liang Bing, his smile was almost overflowing. After returning, he even paid for his good friends in the mercenary organization to go to the food shop outside and have a big meal. Chapter 5. Honorary Knights. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The military confrontation between Kaisha and Liang Bing was set up in the royal duel arena of Merleau's home. Although Merleau received the approval of Liang Bing to enter the duel arena for observation, he could only stand at the very edge of the stands. Your Highness Kaisha, come on, and, Your Highness Liang Bing, come on. The number of spectators cheering on the two in the duel arena is basically half. Sister, our last martial arts competition seems to have happened 10 years ago. Liang Bing, holding a sharp sword, stood on the left side of the arena. Yeah. Liang Bing, it's been 10 years since we last met. Are you still working on that mercenary organization? Do you know that? The thing that Father Wang hates the most is the mess you've done. Kaisha said to Liang Bing with a smile on her face. Sister, don't underestimate my mercenaries, each of them is a first-class elite. Liang Bing boasted to herself. Oh, really? After the competition is over, I will go and try how strong their combat power is. Kaisha aimed her sword at Ling Bing. Kaisha and Liang Bing's swordsmanship were basically taught by the same group of people. Therefore, the two sisters were still tied after hundreds of rounds of entanglement with each other. Therefore, they had to use their best killing moves to prepare for the final attack. Not good, if we continue like this, we will both lose, Merleau, standing on the edge of the stands, muttered to himself in a worried voice. There were also many people present who shared his views. Kaisha, who was eager for her younger sister, surprisingly gave up her strongest move at the last moment, but Liang Bing did not choose to stop at the right time. The sharp sword in her hand pierced into the opponent's left arm. Liang Bing, what are you doing? Hoffman, located in the center of the stands, spread his wings and flew up to the arena. He went to help Kaisha while questioning Liang Bing. Father, it's not about Liang Bing. I took the initiative to stop it, Kaisha pleaded desperately for Liang Bing. It's because you took the initiative to stop, that she shouldn't be so cruel to you. Liang Bing, apologize to your sister immediately. Hoffman said with a serious expression as he stared at Liang Bing. Father, you want me to apologize to my sister in front of so many people? Where do you want my face to go? Liang Bing retorted. If you don't apologize to your sister today, starting from tomorrow, you should leave here and go to the edge of the planet to fulfill your duty of guarding. Hoffman said without mercy. Father, I see you're a biased older sister. You've been like this since childhood. You want me to guard the border, no problem, I'll go. After throwing down the sharp sword in his hand, Liang Bing spread his wings and flew away without looking back. Father, don't be so cruel. Liang Bing didn't mean to do it. Caesar continued to plead for her mercy. Kaisha, Liang Bing's personality is too impulsive. It's also a good thing for her to go to the border to exercise. You don't need to persuade me about this anymore. Hoffman gently caressed Kaisha's face. The next day, Liang Bing gathered her 10,000 mercenaries and prepared to take them to the border. Alright, warriors, let's go together. Before Liang Bing could finish speaking, a voice that made her feel disgusted suddenly came out. Wait a moment. Hoffman brought 10,000 angel warriors to the front of Liang Bing and others. My good father, what do you want to do? Liang Bing turned to look at Hoffman and asked. I came here today specifically to give it a try. How strong is your mercenary team in combat? I want to see if they deserve to go with you to guard the border. Let me go. Hoffman gave the order, and the 10,000 angel warriors behind him each selected an opponent to fight against the mercenaries under Liang Bing's command. At the beginning of the battle, many mercenaries were blinded by this sudden attack, and some of them were unexpectedly killed by the angel warriors with a single sword. At this point, discerning people can see. What is the difference between professional warriors and non-professional warriors? The male angel who was fighting against Merleau was at the mid to high level of strength among 10,000 angel warriors. The opponent took advantage of his flying ability and directly suppressed him from the beginning. As he watched himself gradually fall behind, Merleau could only reveal some of his trumps in advance. He used his dance technique in front of everyone, and in an instant, he went from being at a disadvantage to a draw with the opponent. Merleau, this guy can actually fly without wings. These days, he has been hiding from us all. Liang Bing was a little surprised by Merleau's dancing technique. Merleau's sudden display of this move made many people present cast their attention at him, even Hoffman gave him a few more glances. With the blessing of Wukong art, Merleau narrowly defeated his opponent with a merciless force, becoming one of the few mercenaries who could counter-kill angel warriors. Well, that's great, you guys are all real warriors. Now that I have sent you a formal invitation, you can become a Knight of Glory in the royal family. Hoffman extended a sincere invitation to the Bellows. However, to everyone's surprise, except for Bello, all the others refused Hoffman's invitation. After all, they were the most loyal supporters of Cold Ice. Bello, you won't have any future with my father's king. Besides, do you know what an honor knight is? It's different from a regular knight. You should follow us to the border. After Hoffman and others left, Liangbing went to find Bello alone. Your Highness Liangbing, I remember telling you before that I came under your command to meet your Highness Kaisha. Now that I finally have this opportunity, I can only appreciate your kindness to me. Bello refused Liangbing's kindness to her face. Oh, you. Alright, since that's the case, I won't force you anymore. If you can't stay with my father any longer, you can come to me anytime. The door here will always be open for you. After Liangbing finished speaking, she spread her wings and flew away. The so-called honor knight is actually similar to the miscellaneous disciples of the cultivation sects in some fantasy novels. Because they not only have to undertake the same security work as regular knights, but also have to be responsible for various miscellaneous tasks inside and outside the palace. And in the internal training of knights, they often exist as human sandbags. However, this job may be a bit embarrassing for others, but it makes Bello feel extremely honored because he can finally take the opportunity to clean the palace and have a one-sided distance from Caesar with integrity. Chapter 6. The Arrival of Huaye. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Father, I heard that the Angel King has passed away. Caesar said to Hoffman. Yeah. An old era has come to an end, and a new era is about to come, Huaye. Ah. Hoffman shook his head helplessly. Father, are you worried about something? Kaisha took Hoffman's hand. Huaye and King Hua are completely different people, and I'm worried he might. Kaisha, we need to prepare early. Hoffman said with a worried expression on his face. The angelic civilization was ruled by 7 angelic kings together. 1,000 years ago, Huaye, one of the 7 kings, stood out from the crowd and led the angelic civilization to a new era. Therefore, he was also revered as the angelic holy king by the other 6 kings. Hua Zhao has only one son under his knee, Huaye, who is naturally a person who likes beauty, commonly known as LSP. He was clearly bound by his engagement with Caesar, but he couldn't control his lower body. Before he was 100 years old, he had already had special relationships with countless female angels. In addition, Huaye also disdains the co-governance of the 7 kings in the angel civilization. He has repeatedly threatened in public that once he becomes the holy king of angels, he will definitely make the entire angel civilization have only one king. After Huaye ascended to the throne of the angel king, on the 2nd day after ascending the throne, he issued a proclamation to the other 6 angel kings. He wanted to unify the entire angel civilization, and he wanted the other 6 kings to bow down and submit to him. Not long after, one of the 6 kings was the first to fall towards Huaye. After his own strength grew several times, he began to use force directly to threaten. Soon after, 2 more kings surrendered directly because they were afraid of Huaye's military threat. And the remaining 3 angel kings were all those who wanted to resist in a corner, and Huaye no longer continued to be accustomed to them. He directly led his angel warriors to launch a very fierce attack on the territory of the other 2 angel kings besides Hoffman. Kaisha, the situation is extremely urgent. Just yesterday, Aaron's territory was conquered by Huaye, and his next goal must be our Merleau homeland. We need to quickly reorganize our troops and be ready to fight at any time. Hoffman said anxiously as he approached Kaisha. Father, let's summon Liangbing back. I heard she was very brave in the border. Keisha suggested to Hoffman. No, Liangbing is on the edge. The situation is to guard against the ambush of the Park Nebula. If we call her back recklessly, if we don't pay attention, we will be attacked both inside and outside. Hoffman rejected Kaisha's proposal. But can we withstand Huaye's attack without summoning Liangbing back? Kaisha asked with a worried expression. Don't worry. I have already made a more appropriate arrangement and should be able to withstand it for a while. Then we can find a way to seek assistance from other nebulae. Hoffman comforted Kaisha and said. Hoffman gathered all the pursuers of Kaisha to form a strong team, and Merleau naturally became one of them. At this moment, his heart was filled with excitement as he waited in this world for so long, finally waiting for the arrival of this day. 3 months later, 1,000,000 angel warriors under Huaye's command rushed straight towards the Merleau homeland, and for a moment, the flames of war spread far beyond the royal capital. Your Majesty, Huaye's army has already captured the royal city. After 2 months of fighting, an angel warrior suddenly flew up to Hoffman and said. How could it be so fast? Isn't there still tens of thousands of soldiers guarding the city gate? Are they all given by Huaye's army? Hoffman thought it was somewhat unbelievable. Wang, these are the tens of thousands of temporary personnel and horses that have all surrendered to Huaye now. The temporary personnel and horses mentioned by this angel warrior were the teams composed of Kaisha's pursuers. What are you talking about? These bastards always say they're willing to go through fire and water for Caesar, but at the critical moment, they can't even rely on one of them. Hoffman said with a disappointed expression on his face. At this point, it's no use regretting anymore. After the city was destroyed, Hoffman and Kaisha father and daughter had to personally lead the remaining soldiers to face the enemy. In the end, the entire Hoffman dynasty was left with only one soldier left, and now only Hoffman, Kaisha, and Ronan are still struggling to sustain themselves. Faced with this battle that had no suspense left, Huaye ordered his soldiers to retreat first. He wanted to go find Hoffman and the 3 of them to have a good time alone. Oh my, old man. What's the trouble with you? If you had surrendered to this king earlier, your Merleau homeland wouldn't have ended up like this today. Huaye walked slowly towards Hoffman and the others with a victorious attitude. Huaye, you tyrant, you won't have a good ending. Kaisha stood in front of Hoffman and glared angrily at Huaye. Don't think you have an engagement with me, so you can scold me in person like this. This has angered me, be careful that I will throw you to the soldiers behind me. Huaye said without any mercy. As soon as his words fell, the male envoys behind him burst into laughter. Your Majesty and Princess, hurry up and I'll cut you off. Ruo Ning stood trembling in front of Caesar. With just you, in my eyes, you're not even as good as a fart. Hurry up and get out of here. Huaye waved his hand and flipped Ruo Ning to the ground. Ruo Ning. Hoffman and Kaisha both glanced at Ruo Ning lying on the ground and said so. Kaisha, I will give you a chance now. You just need to kneel down and lick my shoes, and I will marry you as a queen. Your father will also be the most prestigious father. In law of the angelic civilization. What do you think of this suggestion? At this moment, Huaye was less than 1 meter away from Kaisha. Idiotic and delusional, even if I die, I won't marry you, Kaisha resolutely refused Huaye's unreasonable request. All right. Since you are so disrespectful, then the king will have to resort to violence. Just as Huaye was about to take action and use tough tactics against Kaisha, a huge scratch, to prevent harmony, suddenly came from the male angels behind him. In fact, at the time of the city's destruction, Merleau pretended to surrender Huaye along with Dou Po, and then he was searching for the best opportunity to deliver a fatal blow to the opponent. But when he saw Huaye preparing to take action against Kaisha, he knew he couldn't bear it any longer. So, he quickly killed several male angels and former companions around him, and then he went straight through a bloody path and came behind Huaye. Chapter 7. Escape from Shengtian. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. You bastard, who the hell are you? Just a few seconds ago, Huaye was kicked to the ground by a sudden surprise attack from Merleau due to his carelessness. My name is Merleau, and I am one of His Highness Kaisha's pursuers. Today I am here to protect His Highness Kaisha. Huaye, you tyrant, I must personally cut off your head and kick it as a ball. Merleau said to Huaye with a confident expression. At this moment, Merleau was constantly attracting Huaye's attention to himself, because only by doing so could Kaisha have a chance to escape from here. You speak shamelessly, are you worthy to be my opponent? Huaye stood up and looked angrily at Merleau, saying. You leave quickly, don't worry about me, you're not his opponent anymore. Although Caesar knew nothing about Merleau, she didn't want to watch this young man lose his life in vain. Your Highness Caesar, don't worry. Not to mention him as a tyrant, even the male angels behind him combined are not my opponents. Merleau boasted shamelessly. All right. Son of a bitch, I want to see how you defeated these warriors behind me. Huaye waved his hand, and the male angels behind him began to flock towards Merleau. Then you guys keep an eye on it. Merleau flew into the air using his dance technique. He opened his hands and gathered a circle of air currents on each of them. What he was using now was the Qigong wave from the Dragon Ball world. What kind of ability is this? Huaye became interested in Merleau's wingless flight, and he was also curious about what kind of ultimate move could be used from the other person's hands. Ha! When Merleau gathered enough airflow, he closed his hands and a yellow shockwave was emitted from his hands. After hitting those male angels, the shock wave immediately generated a huge explosive force. Hundreds of male angels were knocked to the ground by this sudden move, among which several male angels who directly welcomed this Qigong wave were even blown away on the spot. What's going on? If I shoot this move directly in front of you, what would happen to you? After Merleau landed, he asked Huaye in this way. Okay, great. You are qualified to become the warrior of this king. Follow this king, and I will make your name resound throughout the universe. Huaye was tempted by Merleau. I'm sorry, my heart already belongs to His Highness Caesar. I won't be loyal to anyone else anymore. In fact, the just blow had already consumed most of Merleau's stamina, and he could only force himself to hold on now. After speaking, Merleau didn't wait for the other party to respond. He once again launched a surprise attack on the other party, and then he fought alone with Huaye and dozens of male angels. Kaisha, take this opportunity, let's go quickly. Hoffman also saw that Merleau was just forcefully holding on. In order not to let the other party's intentions go to waste, he quickly stepped forward and grabbed Kaisha's hand, preparing to leave. Princess, let's go quickly. At this moment, Ruoning finally recovered and joined the persuasion to persuade Kaisha to leave quickly. You must have nothing to do. Caesar looked at Merleau, who was fighting in the blood, and silently said a word before leaving with her father, the king, and Joning. Seeing that his beloved goddess had gone far away, the big stone in Merleau's heart finally landed, so he worked even harder to fight against the male angels in front of him. In fact, Huaye also saw that Merleau was already at the end of his rope. He had just intentionally let go of Kaisha and others, because he was very confident that those three people could not escape his palm. And his biggest interest now is in Merleau's skills, but he still gave orders to the other male angels to pursue, capture the three Hoffman alive. After killing over 100 male angels, Merleau finally collapsed weakly, and then naturally became a prisoner in Huaye's hands. Kaisha, you and Ruoning should leave quickly. Don't worry about me, as long as you don't fall into Huaye's hands, we still have hope. At this moment, the male angels under Huaye's command have caught up with Kaisha and the three of them. Hoffman resolutely chose to stay and cut ties with his daughter. Father, I'm not leaving, I want to kill the enemy with you. Caesar said as she fought against a male angel. If you don't leave again, I will die in front of you immediately. At this moment, Hoffman had already made up his mind to die. Father. At this moment, Kaisha was already sobbing uncontrollably. Princess, let's go quickly. Don't let your majesty down. After killing a male angel in front of her, Ruoning grabbed the hand of Kaisha, who was reluctant to part with Hoffman. Then, the two of them fled towards the depths of a dense forest. After seeing Kaisha's figure, which had already disappeared from his sight, Hoffman tore off his armor. Without the shackles of the armor, he was able to exert a step closer combat power than before, but this appearance made him more vulnerable to injury. In the end, exhausted and bruised, Hoffman naturally became a prisoner in Huaye's hands. When Hoffman was pressed into the dungeon, he saw Bello, who had already been tortured and beaten by Huaye, and then the two were locked in the same cell. "Young man, what's your name?" Hoffman said with an appreciative expression as he looked at Bello. Nowadays, Hoffman may have forgotten that he personally called Bello into the ranks of the honorary knights of the royal family. "Back to King Hoffman, my name is Bello. I used to be a mercenary under His Highness Liangbing, and it was you who took me." Anyway, with nothing to do, Bello told Hoffman everything about his experiences over the years. "So it was you. I remember, you were the only young man who was willing to join the honor knight back then. I never expected that. At the last moment, it was you who stepped forward and saved Caesar's life." King Hoffman finally remembered the scene from back then. "To be honest, I have always had feelings for His Highness Caesar. But I also know that my identity is far from hers, so I can exchange my life for a glimmer of hope for her. I already feel that I have no regrets in this life." Bello said to Hoffman from his heart. "Bello, if we can still walk out of here alive, I will definitely give you a chance to pursue Caesar openly, because you are a reliable person worth trusting." Hoffman admired Bello more and more. "Thank you for your appreciation, King Hoffman. I believe we can both walk out of here alive," Bello said to Hoffman, clasping his fists, and the other person nodded in satisfaction. Chapter 8. Order in the Heavenly Palace. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. After hearing about the fall of Merleau's home, Liangbing hurriedly returned with his men and horses. Along the way, they engaged in dozens of battles of different sizes with the male angels under Huaye's command. Soon after, they met with the retreating and fighting Alan and others. "Alan, how are father and sister doing now?" Liangbing asked Alan anxiously in front of him. "Returning to His Highness Liangbing, according to the information we have received, your Majesty has fallen into the hands of Huaye. As for His Highness Kaisha, it seems that she has escaped with Ruolin. My soldiers are currently searching for their whereabouts with all their might." Alan informed Liangbing in detail of the intelligence he had obtained. "I should have come back earlier. If I had come back earlier, things might not have escalated into the current situation," Liangbing said after taking a look at the devastated land. "Your Highness Liangbing, please lead us to retrieve your Highness Kaisha, and then we will go together to rescue your Majesty." Alan knelt down on one knee and begged Liangbing. "Don't worry, I will take you all back and reclaim everything that belongs to us," said Liangbing, looking up at the grey sky. Kaisha and Ronan were constantly attacked by scattered male angels on their escape route. Fortunately, as they walked along, they also encountered some soldiers from Merleau's homeland who had been scattered by the Archangel army. After more than a month of continuous escape, more than 100 female angels had gathered under their command. At first, there were some scattered male angels following behind the two of them, but with the news released by Huaye gradually spreading, these few male angels also left Kaisha and Ronan. After taking over Merleau's home, Huaye became the only king of angelic civilization, and then he ordered the creation of a heavenly palace order. Male angels were the rulers of civilization, while female angels were directly reduced to the order of the happy class. Under the influence of this order, even the male angels in the Liangbing team defected and fled, joining Huaye's camp. In the end, whether it was Kaisha or Liangbing, there was only a group of female angels left under their command, whose combat power was generally lower than that of male angels, and their number was extremely limited. These male angels are all a bunch of scumbags. At this moment, Kaisha and Liangbing, who were in different places, all expressed the same evaluation of the actions of the male angels such as Huaye. "Bello, I can't hold on anymore. If you have the chance to leave here in the future, could you please convey to Kaisha and Liangbing for me? I am proud to have their 2 daughters in this lifetime, and I have entrusted Kaisha's future to you. After spending several months in prison, Hoffman, who was already old and weak, finally collapsed in front of Merleau. Hoffman King, don't worry. I will definitely go out alive, and I will also let Huaye repay the debt with blood. Merleau swore to Hoffman, who had gradually cooled down. Oh. Is the old man already suffocating? I didn't use punishment on him either. Why did he just die like this? Someone. Bring him out to me and bury him anywhere you want. Huaye stepped over Hoffman's body and walked straight to Merleau. Yes, King Huaye. 4 male angels walked in, lifting Hoffman's hands and feet respectively, and then lifting his body out of the cell. Oh. You bastard. I have already ordered someone to torture and beat you continuously for several months. How can you still be so lively? I am really becoming more and more interested in your genes now. Huaye said with a low smile as he looked at Merleau, who was chained up. That's right, when Huaye discovered that Merleau's physical fitness was different from that of ordinary people, he had already ordered someone to study the other person's genes privately. Unfortunately, with the current technology of angel civilization, they still cannot decipher the genetic code of the Scion people. Tyrant, you're here. This time, what do you want to bring to greet me? It's okay, just come. Merleau said with a slightly numb expression as he looked at Huaye. You're right about that. I've recently invented some interesting hobbies and I'll give you a try. Then Huaye ordered someone to take Merleau out of the prison. 3 hours later, 2 male angels threw Merleau, who couldn't even walk, back into the prison cell. After a while, Merleau, who had no good place left on his whole body, slowly climbed up from the ground of the cell. He leaned his hands against the wall and then used his eyes to pass through the window of the prison room, taking a glance at the starry sky at night. He seemed to have seen the figure of Caesar in the night sky. Your Highness Kaisha, according to the news just received, Your Majesty died in Huaye's prison 3 days ago. Ruoning came to Kaisha and told him the sad news. Father. After hearing the news of Hoffman's death, Kaisha's tears streamed out. Your Highness Caesar, please don't be sad anymore. We must pick ourselves up and avenge Your Majesty. After Caesar cried for a while, Ruoning walked forward to comfort her. You're right. We don't have much time to grieve now. There are many sisters waiting for us to rescue. We need to cheer up and face a new round of fighting. Kaisha wiped the tears from her face and looked up at the deep sky. You're right. There are many sisters waiting for us to rescue them, so I came here today to bring you some good news. A figure of Qianli suddenly appeared behind Kaisha, who was Huaye with silver hair. And the purpose of her trip is to bring news to the other party that tens of thousands of female angels have been stationed. These tens of thousands of female angels are strong women who are unwilling to submit to the order of the heavenly palace. So, Huaye ordered someone to lock them all up and detain them. He wanted to slowly wear down their willpower in this way, in order to achieve the goal of making them submit to the order of the heavenly palace. By the way, Kaisha, there is still a young man named Merleau locked up in Huaye's dungeon. As far as I know, Huaye occasionally imposes cruel and inhumane punishments on him. Do you know anything about this young man? Just as Huaye was about to leave, she suddenly remembered this incident. Huaye, what are you talking about? He was killed by Huaye. Although Kaisha can't remember who Merleau is anymore. But she had an intuition that Merleau must be the young man who desperately obstructed Huaye and others, allowing herself and Ruoning to escape smoothly. After hearing about the tragedy that had happened to Merleau, Kaisha felt a deep sense of guilt towards him in her heart. Chapter 9. Rescue Operations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Under the cooperation of Huaye, Kaisha, along with the female angels, rescued one after another of the female angels who were detained by Huaye and others in batches. But as the saying goes, walking by the river often doesn't get your shoes wet. The fact that Huaye secretly helped Kaisha was eventually discovered by Huaye, and for this reason, she was ordered by the other party to be soft and imprisoned. Dear, why are you suffering so much? King Huaye values you so much, why do you want to hang out with those rebels? Sumali asked as he approached Huaye. Sumali, I am now different from you. It's not a conspiracy. Huaye only glanced lightly at Sumali before continuing to lower her head to read. That's right, the reason why Huaye was discovered by Huaye is also attributed to Sumali. Therefore, at this time, Huaye no longer had the same love for Sumali as before. However, Sumali did indeed love Huaye, but he became even more loyal to Huaye. Therefore, when he learned that Huaye had a secret conversation with Kaisha, he did not hesitate to expose Huaye to Huaye, but soon he pleaded with Huaye again, asking the other party to spare Huaye's life. Dear, you are a scholar from the Royal Academy of Angels, and King Huaye has always held you in high regard. As long as you submit your research materials on Dark Suine, I will ask King Huaye to be lenient with you. Sumali still wanted to retain Huaye. This time, Huaye didn't even bother to lift her head again. She pretended that Sumali didn't exist and continued to bury her head in reading. Dear, in 3 days, King Huaye will deal with you. Before that, as long as you are willing to compromise, I will do my best to save your life. After seeing that his persuasion was unsuccessful, Sumali left this sentence for Huaye, and then he turned around and left. Your Highness Kaisha, according to the latest news, Huaye will be publicly cremated in 2 days for secretly helping us. Jorning reported in front of Kaisha. What? No, I'm going to save her. I can't let her sacrifice herself for nothing. Kaisha resolutely went to rescue Huaye. In the absence of a long persuasion, Ruan Ning could only agree to join her in the rescue. Sister will definitely go to rescue Huaye, and then we can meet up at the execution ground. At the same time, Liang Bing also received the same news, and she planned to take people to rescue Huaye. On the day of the execution, Sumali first brought Huaye to an observation deck, and then he ordered several stubborn angels to be publicly executed. And his purpose in doing so was to intimidate Huaye and make him feel scared, so that he could change his mind at the last moment. The way angels are executed is a bit special. It involves setting up 4 pillars around a square platform that can connect with stellar energy. Before the execution, a protective barrier will be laid out between the 4 pillars to prevent the executed person from escaping temporarily. Then, the 4 pillars will gather the energy of the stars in one place and execute a burning and personal punishment on the people on the platform. Down with the tyrant Huaye. Long live freedom. The 3 angels who were taken into the platform raised their right hands and shouted out their faith, 2 women and 1 man, just before being executed. That's right, not all male angels would agree with the existence of the heavenly palace order. There are still a very small number of male angels who, because they cannot tolerate Huaye's stubbornness, retrogression, and favoritism, secretly choose to help the female angels. Amidst the shock of Huaye and the cheers of everyone present, these 3 angels who fought for freedom were publicly burned to ashes. Darling, you saw it just now. If you regret it now, there's still time. Sumali finally wanted to keep Huaye. No need to say more, I am willing to dedicate everything for the freedom of the angel. After speaking, Huaye walked towards the platform of execution without looking back. Unwillingly, Sumali stepped forward and grabbed Huaye's arm just as he was about to step onto the platform. He wanted to kiss Huaye again. Faced with Sumali's unreasonable provocation, Huaye pushed him away fiercely, and then she resolutely stepped into the platform of punishment. Sumali arrived at the center of the square below the platform, and after taking a final glance at Huaye, he directly issued the order to defeat the opponent. The 4 sticks on the platform slowly injected stellar energy, and Huaye looked calmly at the fireballs slowly gathering above her head. She silently recited, "For freedom" in her heart, and then she closed her eyes. After a minute, the imagined pain did not come. Huaye opened his eyes and saw a beautiful figure standing in front of her. "Kaisha, you're here," Huaye said with a smile on his face. "Huaye, I'm here to save you." Kaisha's sword destroyed one of the pillars, only stopping the process of collecting stellar energy, but the protective barriers around still existed. "This thing has a defense mechanism, and the console must be destroyed," Huaye said to Kaisha. "Leave it to me, sister." At this moment, Liang Bing also rushed with his men and horses. She heard what Huaye had just said to Kaisha, and immediately flew towards the control console with everyone. All right, you're all here. Everyone, listen and take down these rebels." After Somali gave the order, all the male angels attacked the female angel in the air. Liang Bing's combat power is higher than that of ordinary male angels. Under her leadership, the female angels quickly destroyed the control console. Then, Kaisha and Huaye flew out of the platform together and joined the battle with the male angels. Somali wanted to fly to Huaye again, but on the way, he was stopped by cold ice. After several fights, he was kicked from the air onto the square below, and his body even smashed a big hole in the ground of the square. Seeing that Somali couldn't get up for the time being, Liang Bing smiled slightly at the corner of her mouth, and then she flew towards Kaisha, Huaye, and others. "Don't be too eager to fight, let's go quickly." Caesar gave the order to all the female angels, and at this moment, it was not an opportunity for a long battle. Yes, all the female angels answered together, and then they flew in a certain direction together, but soon a huge spaceship appeared in front of them, which was Huaye's private flagship. The Tiangong. Chapter 10. 3 Kings Ascend the Throne. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kaisha, we're meeting again. This time, I won't let you escape again. With Huaye's command, the heavenly palace issued a light towards Kaisha and others. Everyone, quickly disperse. Despite Caesar's timely reminder, the female angels still suffered. Not long after, over 100 female angels, including Kaisha and Huaye, were covered by a spherical protective barrier sent out by the Tiangong. Liang Bing and other female angels were not covered by this protective barrier due to timely evacuation, but at this time they were also surrounded by countless male angels. Kaisha, this kind of protective cover can only be cracked by breaking the crystal in the controller. That's right, the protective cover in front of me was also designed by Huaye. Everyone, listen and gather all the firepower in one place to attack. Kaisha ordered the female angels inside the protective shield to release all the attacks to the same place on the shield. Under the joint attack of all the female angels, a weak spot finally appeared on a certain barrier inside the protective shield. Kaisha seized the opportunity and rushed out of that weak spot with all her might, then flew straight towards the Tiangong. Kaisha, are you in such a hurry to meet me? Do you want to have something pleasant with me? Faced with Kaisha's fierce arrival, Huaye continued to tease the other party. Kaisha always remembered her purpose, and every step she took in the fight with Huaye was to prepare for destroying the crystal responsible for controlling the protective cover. In the end, Huaye was not careful and was kicked towards the crystal by Kaisha, and then his body smashed the pile of control crystals. Seeing that her goal had already been achieved, Kaisha stopped fighting at all. Taking advantage of the gap when Huaye had not yet stood up, she hurriedly flew out from the Tiangong ship. When Huaye got up and was about to pursue Kaisha, a guard ship from the Tiangong suddenly attacked his face. With a fixed eye, it turned out that it was Liang Bing who had gone through a tough battle and taken away a guard ship from the hands of the Tianjia army. After the break of the cold ice, Kaisha smoothly merged with Huaye and others. At this point, the protective cover had completely disappeared, and then they hurriedly flew towards the predetermined destination. After Liang Bing fully utilized her resources and completely scrapped the escort ship, she retreated with the remaining female angels in front of Huaye and others. Before leaving, she let the escort ship crash straight towards the deck of the Tiangong. Liang Bing. Huaye gritted his teeth and glared angrily as he looked at Liang Bing's receding figure. With the addition of He, the combat effectiveness of the female angels was greatly improved in a short period of time. Gradually, they regained some scattered territories from the male angels. Ruo Ning, how is Bello's situation? After the situation of the female angels improved a bit, Kaisha began to order people to inquire about Bello's situation. It's not good. After we left Huaye, Huaye became even more eager to obtain the secret from Bello. Therefore, he increased his efforts to impose cruel punishment on him. It is said that Bello can no longer do anything except speak now. Ruo Ning still kept some reservations. Bello's actual situation is even worse than what she said. It's all me who caused him. Caesar finally shed a tear for Bello. Kaisha, don't be sad. As long as Huaye doesn't get what he wants from Bello for a day, Bello will temporarily have no worries about life. He comforted Kaisha and said. Yeah. Sister, Bello is very lucky. I believe he can hold on. Compared to He, Liang Bing's way of comforting Kaisha was much lower in rank. Liang Bing and He, rest assured. I won't be overly sad. What we need to do now is to become stronger. Only when we become stronger can we save Bello from Huaye's hands as soon as possible. Kaisha wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes and regained her composure. Upon hearing Kaisha's words, He and Liang Bing exchanged a glance, and both of them could tell a situation from each other's faces. Kaisha seemed to have fallen in love with Bello. This son of a bitch, I have used all means, but he still refused to say anything, which really enrages me. That day, Huaye went to interrogate Bello again, and when he came back, he swore to Somali and said roast. Wang, the Royal Academy has tried its best, and they really can't decipher Bello's genetic code. In the face of Huaye's crazy roast, Somali still reports to the other side in a whisper. They are all a bunch of useless waste. I now feel that the Royal Academy no longer needs to exist. Huaye continued to curse and say so. Wang, since Bello is unwilling to speak and the Royal Academy is unable to decipher his genetic code, he is no longer of much use to us. Why don't we give him? Somali gestured in front of his neck. No, he still has a little use left. Let's keep him, sooner or later, he will come in handy. A conspiratorial smile appeared on Huaye's lips. Without the Angel Royal Academy of He, it was basically a group of stubborn old people who only knew how to stand still. Therefore, the technological level of Huaye's side began to decline, while on the contrary, the technological level of Kaisha's side was constantly increasing. After repeated experiments by He, the female angels evolved from ordinary super warrior bodies to a generation of divine bodies. Their battle scenes with the male angels finally began to undergo a reversal of attack and defense. After the female angels captured several fortified fortresses, Kaisha, He, and Liang Bing were jointly elected by the female angels and ascended to the position of King of Angels. Their titles were Heavenly Blade King, Heavenly Base King, and Heavenly Apocalypse King. After thousands of battles, big and small, the female angels regained hundreds of fortresses from the male angels, and their team became increasingly powerful. If Huaye's Tianjia group has millions, then Kaisha's angel group has millions. However, due to limitations in the materials required for divine body upgrades, the vast majority of the female angels in Kaisha's millions are only used to make up numbers.